Well, everyone, I'm really excited today. It's mid-April. You would expect that it's a super sunny day. Everyone's outside playing. We actually have like 2 to 4 inches of snow on the ground behind me. So it's been kind of a whirlwind. If school was in session, I would imagine that today would be a great candidate for a snow day. Um, but I am getting to talk with a local psychologist, Kelly Brey Love. She is a PhD psychologist who owns Mind Body Balance, which is an integrative medicine clinic where she is a psychologist, and she helps teens, adolescents, children, adults with everything related to mood and all of the different things that come about with having a good outlook and positivity and mindfulness. And I'm telling them all the things that you do when I think you should just introduce yourself, because I won't do it justice. But I'm really excited to get to talk with her, because there's been a lot of worry out there and a lot of kids that are worried, that are acting out, that parents don't really know what to do. Parents have a lot of worry right now too, because of everything that's going on in our world and all the changes and all the financial concerns and health concerns. And there's just so much on everyone's plate right now. So I wanted to have Kelly on to talk through how we as parents can work through that anxiety for ourselves, help our kids during this difficult time. If you could just introduce yourself, Kelly, and then we can just kind of chat about how parents can cope with all this and help their kids cope.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. My name is Kelly Love. I've been doing this for, almost 2 decades now. So this is my passion, is helping families, kids, adults. Didn't know that I'd be talking to people about getting through a pandemic anytime in my career, but
right.
Here we are. We have to be flexible.
Indeed.
I think you did a great job introducing me. Anxiety is near and dear to my heart because I have a little guy of my own who has some significant anxiety. So the things that I talk with families about, I'm also definitely implementing in my house as well.
So let's start with parents, because I think when parents have a lot of worry, then it's difficult to not have your child see that, have you be more reactive and share those worries with your kids, not specifically saying I'm worried about such and such, but just the way that you communicate with your body, with your tone, with the way that you're acting. And I know that there's a lot of parents out there right now that are really worried, and for good reason. Like, this is a health scare. This is something that we've never gone through before. Not only are there all of the health related issues, there's the social distancing, there's keeping our families safe, keeping our loved ones safe, and worrying about our relatives that might be at higher risk or elderly, or that live in other communities where there's more coronavirus going through. And then there's the financial impact that a lot of families are really facing right now. So I'm a worried parent. How do I cope? How can I, in this moment, have less worry and more peace? Or what does that look like?
Absolutely. When I think about anxiety as one of the things I help people with, I often describe it as one of the most contagious mental health concerns that we have. And not meaning like it's like coronavirus, like we're going to pass it that way. But when you're living, especially when you're quarantined with people, when we're all kind of isolating at home right now, we are all feeding off of each other. So if we have one person, if it's your child, if it's your spouse, if it's you, that is feeling more anxious, and like Dr. Boucher said, for really good reasons, a lot of other people are going to be feeling it in the house as well. So when I talk about if somebody brings in their teen or their child and says, hey, my kid's anxious, fix them, have them stop worrying. I always want to say, first of all, I don't ever want to get rid of anxiety. Anxiety is just a feeling. If we weren't anxious, I would get done with this podcast and go walk right into Yankee Hill and get hit by a bus because I don't have that anxiety or that ability to go, wait a minute, before I go in the street, I have to look both ways. So first of all, I think not reducing expectations, but changing expectations. We're not going to get rid of anxiety. And there is good reasons to be cautious right now. Sure. What I like to help people do is manage their anxiety. So when I am working with families and, the parents are saying, I'm worried. I don't know how to talk to my kid about this. I don't even know what's really going on myself. Another word I've been using a lot lately is grace. Giving ourselves grace, because this is such an unprecedented situation. So trying to reduce the pressure that we're putting on ourselves to accomplish all of these roles, teacher, parent, friend, spouse, employee, if we're still lucky enough to be employed. So that's my number one answer, is trying to give ourselves more grace. And everybody says, well, how the heck do I do that? Right. And I say, well, we can talk about that too. I think definitely working on feeling identification. So, when kids are saying, I'm worried about this, or I'm anxious about this, not negating that. Not saying our typical parent response of, it's okay, don't worry.
Right.
We don't know what's going to happen with this. We don't know when they can go back to their sports teams and their friends and their support system at school. But what we can say is, I'm having a lot of feelings too right now. There's things that we can do to help reduce that right now. So labeling our own emotions, like, yeah, this has happened, and I'm a little bit concerned about the weather today. I'm not, but you can use something example right. like that. Talk through the process of identifying that. But the first thing is, I really recommend not negating you shouldn't feel anxious. We're safe. We're in Nebraska. We're not in New York. No, they're free to feel whatever the heck they want to feel.
Right.
But if they're telling you that, they're telling you they need help in managing that. So first thing
the worst thing to do, it sounds like, is to say, don't worry, it's fine. Go play. Yeah. Things like that, because then it just feels like, well, I am not okay with this feeling, or I'm not okay that you're having this feeling, when instead it sounds like what you're saying is it's better to embrace that and identify what that feeling is.
Absolutely. So having lots more like language talk. People have been downloading like mood charts for younger kids. Because younger kids, if they're like 4 or 5, they're going to know, I'm mad, I'm happy, and maybe I'm sad. They don't know the whole range. But if we have like little faces, you can help kind of facilitate that discussion. And using yourself as an example. I am a huge proponent of modeling coping skills, especially for kids. And even if that means creating a situation that you're not truly anxious about, but it's going to be a great way for you to practice, hey, so, we're going to work on deep breathing. Like, I always use driving as an example. Apparently I have some undiagnosed road rage. But whenever I talk to parents about this, I'm always like, so if you're driving and somebody cuts you off, if you're behind a really slow person, that's a great example to say, hey, I'm really frustrated right now because this person is going so slow. I'm really worried about the state of the roads right now. What can I do to help manage this feeling? What can I do to help myself reduce this? And your kids can help jump in. They can say, well, hey, if you honk your horn, okay, well, let's talk through that. Is that going to help me feel any better? No. But using examples, even if you're manufacturing them, to overtly identify your feelings, to help them walk through the process of what helps you. And then at the end, making sure you go, okay, still feel a little bit worried. I'm still a little bit frustrated, but that helped. So it kind of becomes like a team approach instead of you're anxious, hang out in your room, don't come out because nobody wants to deal with that.
Oh, that's such a great, I love that modeling right there, because it shows the child how you have feelings, you have worry, and then how you worked through that. And I think a lot of parents, came from this fixed mindset family where dad's perfect, mom's perfect. And so the expectation is that they never worry, or they're never upset about things. Or if they're upset, it's because you did something wrong. When in reality, like, everybody worries, and worry, like you said, is it's a mechanism that we use to not expose ourselves to unnecessary danger. And so to share that with your child, like, yeah, there's things that I worry about, then it makes it seem more appropriate. And then you're able to say, okay, dad's worried. Here's how he coped through that. Mom was worried, and this is what she did. So now when I'm feeling worry, I'm going to model that behavior that I saw my parent do in my own way and see the results of that, see the worry decrease a little bit.
Absolutely.
And so if parents are wondering, like, I love that manufactured idea, because oftentimes, like, you don't want to necessarily share the worries that you have with your child to the full extent, because they might be more significant, especially with what we're going through right now, that you don't want to bring those things to their attention. But you can manufacture or take something that is a good way to provide an example of how to deal with worry in a safe way, in a safe environment for the child.
Absolutely. And when you use those examples, I always try to not recommend anything has to do with the kid or anything has to do with your husband. Or if it's a huge, I'm worried if I'm going to have my job. That is an adult situation that we need to process through and handle. They don't need to worry about that. They have enough stuff going on their little minds, whether they're 3 to 23.
Right.
Adults. We need to help them focus on developmentally appropriate things.
I think that a lot of parents see the kids worry or they see their kids worrying and think that they must be worried that their grandma's going to die or something like that. When if you are willing to talk and be vulnerable with your child and say, what are you worried about? It might be that they're worried that their birthday party is going to get canceled, or that somebody's going to get to pick the next show and they want to pick that show. Like, sometimes their worries are not the same. Oftentimes their worries are not the same worries as ours, and we just assume that they are because it's on our mind and all these things are on their mind, but they have their own set of things that they're coping with. So asking is probably a really good way to make sure that you're on the same page before you jump into assuming what they're worried about.
Absolutely. That's wonderfully illustrated. I had an appointment with a little dude the other day that was in elementary school, and he's just an anxious guy. And even before this, and I started to ask him how things have been going since, he's been at home more, and with the whole coronavirus issue. And he shut me down. Don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. And so I was kind of able to ask a few more questions. And his main concern was that if he talks about it, it's going to make it stay around longer. And so he had this total confusion about if I give words to this, if I give life to this concern that I have, I'm going to be the one responsible for coronavirus staying around longer. And that was a beautiful moment to come in and go, okay, let's talk. But I hadn't the idea that he would think that until I asked the questions, gave him some space, let him think a little bit, and then he was able to let me know.
I think that is just such a good example too, because it illustrates that, we have to show them that it's okay to talk about those things, because sometimes there's things that I don't want to talk about because it's going to dredge up all sorts of other stuff, but holding on to it or, assuming what the result is going to be just makes it worse in the end. So it's better to get those things out in the open, talk through them, rather than just kind of to bottle it up or be afraid to go there with a child or with your spouse or with your boss or whomever. That it's better to get those things out in front of us so that we can talk through them in the appropriate space when everyone's not heated, and work through them in that situation rather than trying to just, bottle it all up. Well, how about we talk a little bit about parents? So that will help the kids to, if you can model that for them, but what about parents that are just worried and not sure how to manage their own anxiety and worry? What are some things that parents can do for themselves to help manage and cope through this difficult time?
That's a great question. And fortunately, the answer that I give parents, I give adults, is very similar to what I talk to the kids about. So that's just nice for memory when I'm working on my stuff. Oh yeah, right. It's the same thing I want my kids to be working on too. It's not this completely different animal.
Right.
There is so much unknown out there that focusing in on all the things we can't control. We can't control when they go back to school. We can't control when they're allowed to go back to their football team, their dance, whatever it is. But if we help ourselves and also teach our kids, let's focus on 3 things that we absolutely can control today. And I like to start the day off like that because I don't know what's been going on with my kids' brains all night long, but they've been having bad dreams about it. But I said, hey, what are 3 things that you can absolutely control today? And some people are like, well, nothing. Like, I'm a kid. My parents dictate everything, and they don't say dictate.
Right.
But I say, okay, you can control what you eat. You know, if you have like your lunch in front of you, I can control like this much. This is kind of more for adults too, because we might say you have to eat all that, kid.
Right.
But you can control how you respond to people. You can control your attitude. You can control if you decide to go exercise today. These very small things, but that helps to get us out of this big, scary cloud of, I can't control anything for adults and for kids. No, I'm focusing in on right here, right now. And this is what I can control today to help me get in the mindset of having a better day. So, and at the end of the day, I like to go back and review and say, how did those things go? Was I able to control if I actually worked out today? Was I able to control if I reached out to a friend? Because that's so important right now for us getting that support system as adults, as well as for kids. Did I do those things? And did they have an impact on my mood? Well, yes, they did. Great. Using your own data is going to help you continue to put that into play from on. So setting it in the morning and then reflecting on it later, like, how did that work for me? Huh? I was able to control it. I felt a little bit better.
I think that is so wise because oftentimes it does feel on days like this that like we're just kind of going through the day. We have no control over what's going to happen. We don't know what the next week is going to bring. But in reality, there are things that we can control. And if we can focus on those things, I can't control if the people down the block are doing social distancing. I can't control when we're going to get back to school, or I don't have a lot of control over a lot of things, but there are lots of small things that are important that I can control. And it might be the attitude, the attitude or your approach for the day. It also might be just something more tangible, like getting all the Amazon boxes opened up and put away. That's something that I can control. Or, picking my favorite show, watching the next episode of Tiger King. Like, I can control when I'm going to watch that. Things like that you do have control over. And as an adult too, reflecting on those and thinking, okay, I can't control everything, but these are things that I can control, and holding on to those allows you to focus on that rather than trying to control everything or feeling like you have no control.
Absolutely. So we're just kind of funneling that down to what we can control within our home, within ourselves, and helping our kids also learn that strategy, because that is so important. Even without this going on right now, kids often tell me, I don't have any choices. My school tells me what to do when I'm there. My parents tell me what to do when I'm here. My older brother tells me this. No, there are certain things you absolutely can control. And let's focus on those to get through today.
I think that's great. And then, even as a parent, you can give your child some control over things that they might not otherwise have control over. And then they feel that same sense of, okay, I do have control. I got to pick what I wore today. I got to choose if we went left or right at the intersection for our family, the 8th walk that we've taken today. Like, I was in charge of that. That was something that I could control. And what you touched on earlier too is debriefing down the road about that and reflecting back, like, hey, remember when we went for a walk and you got to pick the entire route that we went, and we made it, and we saw those houses that we've never seen, and we saw that dog that we've never seen before, and then we made it back home. That was really cool. Thanks for making those choices, because that really made our day special.
Absolutely. Yep, that's a one I'm talking with people about.
I think that a lot of parents feel like they don't have much control, but there are lots of things that they can control. One thing that we've had in our house that has really helped, I think, is like a really solid routine of, rather than having to, okay, what are we going to do today? And then it's like, well, how am I going to get through this next hour? Like, how am I going to keep everyone busy for this next hour, let alone, make it to nap time and dinner time and bedtime again? Instead, we have a routine that we go through. Like, this is what we do first, and then we've got some free time, and this is what we do, and then we've got lunch, and you can sandwich like having to figure out what to do in between a lot of like scheduled, ritualized routines so that you don't have to plan every moment of the day or feel like you have to constantly be on or be doing. And that's helped us to, have the kids know what to expect throughout the day. And then we can have special things like, Takeout Tuesday is like our state. I don't know if it's a national effort to get, people to go out to restaurants. Well, normally going out to a restaurant on Tuesday is not really something special or to write home about. But right now we could start on Friday, literally writing home about where we're going to get takeout from and talk through that. And, like do a deep dive on what we're going to get from Runza and make up some order sheets, and you could go nuts and crazy on it just because you have the time right now to do that. And that gives you something to fill your day with and something to look forward to then when Tuesday comes around and everybody's got their order sheet and they order themselves from the drive-thru. We do practice run-throughs to the drive-thru, stuff like that, where you don't have to plan everything. You can just deep dive on some of the stuff that you're doing and feel like you're having some order in the day.
And that, so I'm going to start using that. I love that idea, the ordering thing, because that's also teaching right now. We often think, since we now have this role of we're teachers and we're parents and we're blah, 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 that is teaching. So if you have one go around and, hello, I'm your waiter. What would you like today? It's teaching social skills. It's teaching spelling. How do I spell that? Well, sound it out. And let's go check it later. It's practicing writing, it's practicing reading, it's practicing all these really important things that are a part of school, that are a part of education, but it's just not in that sit down, let's log on to our thing and blah, blah, blah. It's sneaking that in, which is beautiful.
I think that those have been some of the valuable things for me. Like the other day, my son and I were kicking the soccer ball between our house and the neighbor's house, and talking through with him, why is it so much harder to kick on their side than on our side? Well, they haven't mowed their lawn for a few days, so there's more friction. And I was like, well, that, is a perfect thing to just like teach them that they'll remember. And we talked about it later in the day, and he brought it back up, and we talked through what friction was and, how that impacted how hard it was to kick the ball. There's lots of opportunities to inject learning, at least check the box of, okay, I taught him something today. Without having to sit at the table and do worksheets until everybody is in tears. And I think that's something that parents are really concerned about too. And maybe we can talk about that for a bit here, is schooling at home and how to make that happen without everybody being in tears, a lot of worry and frustration injected into it. And what I've been telling families is everybody's going through this at the same time. The nice thing about school is that there's a lot of repetition. I learned what 8 times 5 was, like at least 8 times 5 times over the course of several years, so that I would remember it even if I missed that day of school, where the first time we learned what 8 times 5 was, I'd learned it a bunch more times, and there was enough repetition that it stuck eventually. And the same goes for what kids learned last semester versus this semester. Like there's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of opportunities to learn. You don't have to worry that if your child doesn't get this one concept at this moment, that they're going to be behind their peers, because their peers are doing the exact same thing. Their peers are outside making snowmen and not doing the worksheets that they're supposed to be doing too. But maybe you could talk a little bit about your approach to families that are really frustrated or worried about how schooling at home has been going.
Yeah, I think we have a very similar mindset and approach on that one. My goal for my own kids, and for parents, I'm talking to them about this, my goal is not to have them learn a second language or a third language in this quarantine. Like it's shifting those expectations and then having grace for it. So if the expectation from the school, which actually it's very small, the expectations for all the people I talk to. So high school students, they're like, I'm supposed to be working for an hour and a half. They're like, why the heck was I in school for 8 hours then? Well, that's another conversation.
Right.
But the actual, what we're getting from the district, from LPS, from all the schools is, half an hour a day. Okay. For my son, sitting down and watching somebody talk to him about reading for an hour on the computer, he's like, I'd rather go to school for 8 hours. And he doesn't like school. So I'm like, okay, so I have to remember that in my mind too, that even though it's much shorter time, so different than they're used to normally learning and interacting. So that's when I say, okay, grace, Kelly, not reducing, changing my expectations. What do I want? He's supposed to learn about math today. Okay, so if it's an hour-long video and he is just pulling his hair out, making us all crazy because he's, sliding
Right.
off.
Oh my gosh, we've heard that noise at our house a few times lately.
Okay, fine. So then break the video into 20-minute segments. Have a little pause, because 1 hour, I have a very hard time paying attention for 1 hour and trying to learn and trying to be focused. So 20 minutes, okay. So we'll do your reading video for 20 minutes. And then you're going to play a game with your sister. Okay, well, do you rather? No, I don't want to keep doing the reading. Okay, well then you'll play a game with your sister. And then set your little timer again, and 20 minutes, he has to read again. Then you do something fun. He gets to shoot hoops inside because my daughter then jumps around the trampoline and does all her dance moves. But it is meeting the kids where they're at with this huge change of everything and not damaging our relationship as parents in the process with our kids. And that is, for me, that's first and foremost more important. Because if you get through this and you're like, my kid learned all these new things, but God, we hate each other. Like, I love it when he's in timeout because then he's away. Okay, we need to take a step back on that one. I do think there's a way to do both. And if it means that your kid only does school 3 days a week because it's becoming such a fight, it's becoming such a negative, toxic culture in the house, talk to their teacher about it.
Right.
And say, this is what's going on. Can we reduce it? Can we do something else? I've not had one teacher that's responded that said, no, make your kid continue to pull their hair out and tantrum and kick holes in walls. No.
Exactly.
We will get there eventually, but having just good communication with your teachers, with your kids' teachers, and with your kids. What would make my frequent question to my kids is, what would make this suck less?
That's a great way to phrase it. I like that.
Yeah, it's like, this sucks. We'll make it suck less, but have to do it. Well, okay. How about if we do it in little tiny bits and you can do some beautiful football cards? Woo! All of a sudden, I'm not pulling my hair out anymore, and he's relatively compliant with getting that done.
Right. I think a lot of parents get really into the weeds of like new math or things like that, and they're really worried and frustrated. They pass that along to their child because they're thinking, okay, they're going to go back to school this fall, and then they'll be, on display what they learned. Well, they're just going to relearn the same stuff. I mean, even in a normal school year, the first couple months, you're reviewing and making sure that everything that was lost over the summer is regained and we can pick up and do new stuff. It's not like the teacher is going to say, Timmy, didn't your mom teach you quantum physics, in April? Or, Bobby, why didn't your dad teach you German? We were supposed to learn German. Like they're not going to do that. And they're not going to send emails like, did you do worksheet 4A on April 23rd? Didn't you guys do that? Like, that's not going to be what it's like when we go back to school. And so give yourself, like you said, grace that we're doing the best that we can. And that's plenty, and that's totally fine. And I know that after talking with lots of teachers, myself too, here in my office and with our kids' teachers and everything like that, that the expectations are very different on their end, and they are being very reasonable and setting the expectations differently purposefully, because they don't expect everyone to be able to do at home what they do in a school day.
Absolutely. Because there are some families, that they're fortunate or unfortunate, depending on what the circumstances that led to this, but they have a parent that's there and is able to work through all of it with them. My situation, I'm doing telehealth. I'm seeing patients upstairs. They're downstairs doing school. And so it's doing a lot of me setting up that schedule for them. And I think visual schedules are so helpful and so important. If you're a really young kid, pictures. First thing, we do a little breakfast. Then we do this. Then we do this. For my kids, I got little whiteboards. And I said, this is what you're doing. And you're setting a timer. Because my kids have no concept of time, like most kids. So set a timer. And as soon as you're done with that, your 20 minutes of your video, then you get to do this. And that's for 20 minutes too. But there are different expectations. Is I can't be down there and looking over his shoulder and helping him. So if he has a question, he saves it for me when I take my breaks and I go down there. But we have to continue living as adults as well. I have to work. I have an ethical obligation to my patients, as well as we like our house. and we would like to
Right.
keep it. So we have to make sure we are giving ourselves grace.
Well, I think that has been the overall message from our discussion. And I really appreciate you talking through, how can parents help their kids? How can parents help themselves? And then what are the expectations as a unanticipated schooling at home parent? And what we can do to really handle this time with grace and not get overwhelmed with the contagiousness of anxiety. And so, this has been great and so helpful. Where can listeners, watchers of this video find more information about you and everything that you do?
Yep. I have a website. It's just my whole name. It's kellybrylovephd.com. That kind of tells us a little bit more about me, my training, what I specialize in. Also has a few selective pictures of my daughter that my son is not happy that he's not represented, but and then also we have our business website, which is mindbodybalancelincoln.com. And that
Perfect.
we have all sorts of different ways to help adults manage their stress through our business. So if you're like, this is all great, but I need something a little bit more, we have a lot of things that can help out with that as well.
That is awesome. Well, thank you for everything that you're doing for families. Stay safe, keep up the good work, and have fun building snowman today before tomorrow. It's going to be 70 or something like that, which is just, Nebraska for you. And so all the snow will be gone and life will be great until it snows maybe next weekend or something. So
we have some nice squishy snowmen today, I think.
Exactly. Short-lived, but very fun.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks a lot, Kelly. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.